Welcome back to my channel. My name is LaShawn and this is Lush Uncut. So obviously the big news of the day is that Kamala Harris has chosen Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz as her VP running mate. To everyone's surprise, but not really, she did not choose Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro. I think the assumption, well, not an assumption, this is fact. The reason why he did not get the position is because he is Jewish and he has said some things in the past that were pro-Israel. And of course, the Democratic Party of 2024 cannot have any of that. So here we are, Tim Walz is her guy. I think the question on everyone's mind at this point is, who is Tim Walz? What are his policies? And what can we expect in terms of his contribution to a possible Harris administration? I am not going to go through his entire political history, talk about his time as governor in Minnesota and so on and so forth. I'm going to touch on that a little later, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it. What I want to show you guys is this tiny clip from his time spent on the White Dudes for Harris phone call.
So I got to tell all of you, please do what you can. Please talk. Look, I got Florida Man as a brother. We all got him in our families, but these are our neighbors and our relatives. And at heart, they're good people. They're not mean-spirited. They're not small. They're not petty like they hear on stage. They're angry. They're confused. They're frustrated. They feel like they got left behind sometimes, but we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. Just do the damn work.
So the fact that he was on that call, period, I think goes to show the type of politician that he is and what we can expect from him. In addition to that, his decision to use the word socialism bothers me a little bit, because whenever I hear that, I'm like, that's not good. Don't say that. The thing about it is, I feel like this is more of a reflection on Kamala Harris than it is Tim Walz. Again, Josh Shapiro was considered the more moderate choice, and Kamala Harris, since she has announced her run for office, has tried to portray herself as a moderate in most of her positions. However, this choice confirms the fact that, one, she is in fact a far leftist, and two, if she gets into office, she is going to bow to the radical leftists of her party, her entire administration. And I feel like Kamala Harris has made a conscious decision that if elected, that is how she is going to leave her mark in history. She is going to try her best to be as leftist as she possibly can. Okay, so there's that. Now, for those of you that want a little bit more insight on Tim Walz and his policies, Charlie Kirk posted this on X a little earlier, and I think it does a really good job at summarizing his record, what we can expect from him, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to read this. Welcome to the race, Tim Walz. Let's make sure America knows who you are. You helped ignite the George Floyd riots, the worst the country had seen in decades. While Minneapolis burned, you stalled on deploying the National Guard for an entire day, blaming the city for not submitting the right paperwork. You let your daughter leak the Guard's deployment plans online so that rioters would know how long they had to loot the city with impunity. Minneapolis is a war zone because of you. Just days after the attempted murder of Donald Trump, you called him and his supporters fascists, egging on the same rhetoric that led to him being shot in the first place. You have overseen some of the most radical youth trans surgery laws in the country. Under your leadership, teenagers can get their breasts chopped off and sterilized, and your government calls it health care. You have the most radical abortion laws in the country, zero limits. Every year, 5 to 6 babies are born alive and then murdered legally under laws you support. You will try and disguise yourself as a folksy Midwestern moderate. In reality, you are a white male version of Kamala Harris, radical, inept, undeserving to be in leadership. That last part there I think is very important, because it's not that Tim Walz is going to try to portray himself as a moderate. The mainstream media is going to try to portray him as a moderate in the same way they've been doing with Kamala Harris. And that really is the obstacle that Donald Trump and JD Vance is going to have to overcome. It's not Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, okay? We just have to look at their past interviews, short clips, Tim Walz's history as governor. Look at the state of Minnesota. They have one of the highest tax burdens in the country. We can look at videos from the riots of 2020 and get a good idea of what Tim Walz is as a politician. However, most Americans are not going to do that. In addition to that, the media nowadays is so polarized that someone like you and I, we're going to go on YouTube, we're going to go on X, we're going to, take the extra step to look into these people to make sure that we have an accurate idea as to who they are. But unfortunately, most voters are not going to put in that effort. They are going to trust CNN and MSNBC and these pages on Instagram and other social media platforms to basically tell them about Tim Walz and about Kamala Harris. And those sources, the mainstream media, they are going to lie. They are going to continue to lie because that's what they do and that's what they know. Okay. Now, how can Donald Trump and JD Vance overcome this obstacle? The only option, the only platform, the only opportunity they have to do that is on the debate stage. America is going to be watching. This election has been so contentious, has been so eventful. I mean, we had the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. We had Joe Biden drop out. Now we have Kamala Harris, who's going to, if she succeeds, she's going to be the first female president and the first minority president. Everyone is going to watch the presidential debate and they are going to watch the vice presidential debate. So JD Vance and Trump has to come on their A game. They have to keep the conversation on the policies, the positions, the records of both of these people. That way, America is going to have the opportunity to see them for what they really are. Because if they, somehow fumble those debates, it's over. It's done with. Not to say that, it guarantees a win for Harris and Walz, but it's going to be very, 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 very close. And we cannot afford a close race. We need to make substantial progress. We as in Republicans, pro-Trump, pro-JD Vance people. So that's really it. I think, again, this is a really stupid mistake for Kamala Harris to make, to choose Tim Walz over Josh Shapiro, because most Americans are pretty moderate on most issues. Most Americans don't really care for open borders. Most Americans are not pro-trans the kids. There are a lot of positions that Americans tend to be very moderate on. And if Harris thinks that, all she's going to need are those crazy leftists, then she is definitely mistaken. In addition to that, the thing about it, I feel like a lot of politicians don't realize with these crazy leftists, they will never be satisfied, okay? Until Kamala Harris comes out and says, ceasefire now. Until she comes out and just poops on Israel directly, they are not going to be satisfied. I guarantee you that at that DNC in Chicago, there will be protests, okay? They're going to protest because they don't care, because they want revolution. They want action. They want movement. They don't want to be satiated. They want violence at the end of the day. So I really think this was a stupid mistake, but I mean, good for us, I guess.